The retired US Army General Wesley Clark is with me and is going to make sense of this appointment at Defence. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, I think that, first of all, you do have to acknowledge that the president has the right to appoint whomever he wants to this position. Secondly, the president is going to have unparalleled power. There's never been a president in the history of the United States who's had as much power going in as President Trump will have, with the court, the Senate, the House, and his appointees that he's putting in, loyalists. So it's going to be his government. And I think what he wants in the Pentagon is someone who is going to serve up options and give him some advice that supports his positions. And I agree with what Jim just said about fealty and so forth. But when you look at this, nobody, almost nobody who goes into the Defense Department is actually prepared to run it unless they've been through it before. Even Don Rumsfeld, who was former Secretary of Defense, came back in 25 years later and found everything had changed. So it is a huge organization. He's been to Harvard. He's been around Washington. He's got strong opinions. He's got to have qualified people working for him. And I think, he's going to have resentment from some of the senior officers that are there, and maybe even the junior officers. But it depends on how he conducts himself. And if he conducts himself with maturity, with wisdom, with some grace, but if he goes at it in such a way that it's a vendetta against certain generals because they supported diversity programs, or they are part of a diversity program, then he's going to have real upheaval in the Defense Department.
So let's take that aspect to it, because you nail it, as always, General, and it depends how he goes about it. But this idea, first of all, of who is the various undersecretaries, the deputy secretaries, the assistant under-deputy secretaries, and thereby, if you will, the people who execute the various commands, right the way down to this warrior board that is going to be appointed, we believe, that will look at getting rid of those generals that maybe don't follow the right views in it. It's almost as if the pieces of the jigsaw are being put on the table to dominate the organization.
Well, this is what President Trump said he wanted, and he was elected by the American people. So they've given him this power. Right. So, we can talk about it, but if you're an officer in the armed forces and the order that comes down the chain of command is lawful, and you can go to your lawyer who's with the command and he can check and say, yeah, it's a legal order. You're going to follow that order, or you're going to either disobey it and suffer military justice, or put in your resignation, which may or may not be accepted. And so this is what President Trump promised the American people, and this is what he's preparing to deliver. Now, the history of purging generals it's not a good history for any military. It didn't work for Joseph Stalin before World War II. It didn't work for Hitler in World War II. And traditionally, we've never done it in the U.S. military. That's why men like Mark Milley were so forthright in saying that the loyalties to the Constitution. But he's got the Supreme Court. If he does this, you're going to see a drop-off for some time in military effectiveness. It's inevitable.
Can I ask briefly, of all the world hotspots at the moment, for the new administration, which one gives you most concern, bearing in mind what we're now seeing in terms of the positioning?
Ukraine. And I say this because Mr. Putin wants to win. He's not going to give up his strategic interests to make Donald Trump look good. Now, President Trump may say he has a good relationship with Putin, fine. But when Putin says, no, I'm not going to renounce my aim to take over Ukraine. No, I'm not going to renounce my policy. I'm not going to do it for you, Donald. When he does that, where does that leave President Trump? and the United States of America and Ukraine and NATO. So I think it's going to be a very tough set of negotiations. And I hope that President Trump will see it in such a way that he realizes he can't simply accommodate Mr. Putin's wishes. No matter what he thinks of him, if he doesn't stand up for America's interest, he's going to result in a weakening of American credibility and influence worldwide. So it's not just about Ukraine, and that's why this is the most important issue.
General, at our morning meeting, I said I wanted to hear from Wesley Clark, and we're very grateful that you stayed up late tonight to talk to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
it's
Richard.
an honor to have you on the program, as always.
Thank you.